My next guest today is a woman who has been creating a lot of success in the social media world. She is the founder of a Facebook group called We Lead Society, and she also has this podcast. It's a great podcast. I love listening to it. It's called Perfectly Imperfect, and this is Leslie Regalado. Thanks for joining me, Leslie. I'm so
Oh,
happy
you're
you're
so
here.
welcome. Thank you for having me. This is such a treat.
That's awesome that you're here. I'm glad. So I wanted to start by asking you, what was your upbringing like?
Well, I was actually born in Anaheim, California. I lived there till about I was 8 years old. And at that point, my dad passed away. So then my mom decided to uproot us and bring us to Chicago. That's where I live now. And I've actually been raised since the age of about 9. And she came here because she had two brothers that lived here that, she kind of came here for the support. And after my dad passed away, but I've been here ever since. I was raised by a single mom, pretty much. She was a widow, and there was three of us. I was about 9 when my dad passed away. I had a 7-year-old sister at the time, and then a 3-month-old sister. So it's three girls, and I was raised with a very strong, very, very strong mom. I always tell her that I used to tell her when she was alive that I have no clue how she did what she did. She had only sixth grade education. She was born and raised in Mexico and came here as an immigrant. I think before I was born, so many years ago. And she had just learned how to drive. She didn't really know the language when my dad passed away, yet she raised three women that, as far as I can tell, were pretty decent people. And just the way she did it, was just, to me, very inspiring because you don't see that often. She chose to be who she was. She chose to stop being a woman to be a mom. And I say that because she didn't date. She basically just devoted her life to us three.
Wow,
And as a consequence, I think God really rewarded her with three strong women who followed her lead.
that's beautiful. So with that, she helped you basically be inspired to create what you've created now, it sounds like.
I think, her legacy, one of the things that I always say is that she was someone who was extremely disciplined. One of the examples that I always offer is when she was diagnosed with like pre-diabetes. So it wasn't like a diabetes yet, but they said, if you continue kind of on the road that you're on, it will turn into diabetes. And she obviously freaked out because she took care of herself so well always. And we went home that day, and it was like immediately she got rid of anything that was not good for her health. And it wasn't like, oh, maybe later, or let me just finish this off. It was like, bam, right there, everything was gone because she wanted to live a long time. And I always tell people the only thing that could have taken her, because she was only 63 when she passed away 3 years ago. Actually, this past Tuesday was 3 years. And the only thing that could have taken her was what did, which was brain cancer, because everything else, so I always say that brain cancer has a lot to do with your emotional situation and what you've dealt with emotionally for years, which she dealt with a lot of things emotionally by herself. And it was the only thing that I think could have really taken her from us. But she was very strong, very disciplined. And if I could just take on maybe a portion of how disciplined she was, I think my success, will be just amazing because of how we learned from her, my sisters and I, just watching her. And again, going back to the fact that she wasn't highly educated. She, didn't have all this support and encouragement. I mean, she did what she did pretty much on her own, and she held on to God for so many years.
I think also culturally we kind of get that upbringing too of holding on to your feelings at times, right? And holding on to the fact that we can't reach out to other people because it's not things, certain things that we deal with in our personal life. It's not something that we can talk to others about because of our cultural upbringing. I know that I've dealt with that, and a lot of the things that I feel like could have been spoken to me by my mom really wasn't. But I don't necessarily blame her for it. I blame the culture. I think sometimes we can hold some resentment on that, but I just feel like learning over the years from from my upbringing, it was probably more related to culture, holding your feelings inside, not speaking outside the house about it, and not seeking support. I wish my mom would have done that. Did your mom think about looking to learn about diabetes and brain cancer and seeking support groups for, to help her cope with it?
You know what, with the diabetes, thankfully it never became diabetes because of the drastic change that she made immediately. And with the brain cancer, honestly, like we didn't know she had it until it was too late. She literally got diagnosed on, I think it was October 12th, and she was gone by June 9th. So she lasted
Wow.
about 8 months. And by the time she got diagnosed, there was a lot of signs beforehand, like there usually is with a lot of diseases, except you don't know what you don't know. And with her, there was certain, like a lot of the things that can cause cancer, inflammation, et cetera, in the body are, when you don't use the bathroom right, like you're constipated a lot, or, you have, like, there's certain things that can show. I can't even think right now about everything that we learned along the way. But there was a lot of signs like, oh, she didn't sleep well. That was another thing that could have led on to her cells not being enough oxygen, and then obviously leading to cancer. So there was a lot of things that if we would have known ahead of time, we could have addressed them. But unfortunately nowadays, when you go to the doctor, it's like, oh, I can't sleep. Oh, here's some pills. Oh, I can't use the bathroom. Or here's, some other medicine. Like they don't get to the root of why am I constipated? Why am I not sleeping well? Like, what is going on? What is the actual cause of it? And let's try to figure out if we can solve that problem as opposed to just patching it up. So with her, she tried a lot of different things, a lot of natural things as well, with her sleep and her constipation. But, again, we didn't really know it was going to lead to that. So by the time that we found out, I mean, we did everything we could. The minute we learned about it, we decided to go with alternative medicine. She never really got, radiation and chemo because they immediately told us, you know what, this is going to take her. Like it was stage 4 brain cancer. It's called GBM, glioblastoma multiforme, I think is what the name. So by the time you get that kind of cancer, it's pretty much like you have months. They said maybe a year or two. And I remember when they said that, we're like, oh my gosh, that's such a short amount of time. Like, don't say that. And to think that it was even less time, so a couple of years was such a small amount of time for us when we heard that time frame, and it was much less. But by that time, as our daughters, we did everything we could. I mean, we literally tried everything that we could for those 8 months up until like the 2 days before she passed. We were still trying something, and she was with it. She when she was lucid, because by the time she had her first brain surgery in December, right before Christmas, she was still with us. And I think after her brain surgery was when she was, not that she was gone, but she just wasn't able to really communicate verbally. She just, I always feel like when you go into the brain to do anything, there's just no place for you to go in there. Like, I always think like it's full already. So any little disturbance will cause, a lot of damage. And it did. She was never the same until, the very last day. It was like she would slightly communicate, but it definitely wasn't her that we were talking to anymore since pretty much December.
Wow. How did you overcome the grieving? Were you able to look for support yourself? Did you learn to do any type of personal development? What was it
You know
like?
what? That's a not funny question. I was gonna say funny, but an interesting question, a really good question, because that's actually where what I'm doing now. That's a really great way of kind of leading into what we're going to talk a little bit more about today, because when we were going through everything, my sisters were always like, you're the strongest, you're the strongest. And I didn't feel like it, but I understand why I was now. For over 15 years, I've been working on my self-development, between, going to conferences, listening to podcasts, videos, anything I could get, my books, audiobooks are like one of my favorite things to learn from. So I've always poured into developing myself. It is something that I've done for, like I said, for 15 plus years. And I think it was probably the most useful during that time. I remember one time being at one of like a treatment center area, and she was getting either a CT or an MRI, one of those two tests done for her brain. And I remember being outside waiting for her while they were doing the scan. And I had my headphones on and I was listening to either an audiobook or probably an audiobook, because I think I wouldn't really get reception in that section of the hospital. And I remember being there listening, and it wasn't even because it was such a natural thing for me to do constantly, like to feed my mind and to fill it up with something positive consistently. It was just something I did throughout that whole time. And I'm not going to lie, I think it was probably one of the greatest reasons why I was able to, yes, it was painful. Yes, I grieved. Yes, it sucked. Yes, I hated the fact that, I was watching her like literally disappear in front of my eyes, because we were left with half of her by the time she passed away. So she was like 160. And I think by the time she passed away, she was probably no more than 80, 90 pounds. So all of that was difficult. But the constant feeding of my mind, the constant filling up of my cup, I feel was one of the biggest reasons why I was able to stay strong in a sense throughout the whole time. And even after she passed, my husband, my mother-in-law were always like, how are you not like just not okay? And I mean, honestly, I just tell her, number one, my mom left us a huge, like, strong faith. She was always a woman of faith. And we learned from her, my sisters and I, how when something tragic happens, when something extremely painful happens, like, you hold on to God and he's not going to let you go. And then, so that was the first thing, obviously. And number two was the fact that I was constantly listening to something that was helping me stay sane. And for me, it was self-development for sure. And so, I mean, I didn't do any support in other ways other than just continuously doing my self-development, which I feel was the main reason, one of the main reasons besides my faith, why I stayed strong throughout the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's super important that one develops that personal development journey, because every stage of life is going to bring something new. And I think it's a great way to have prepared yourself, for anything that was going to be coming in your future. You didn't expect this coming, in your family, this cancer. And I really believe that too, that your personal development journey 15 years back did
Mhm.
such a good thing for you to overcome this too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so, every day I think about it. I had joined a network marketing company 17 years before, and that's kind of what started my personal development journey. And every day I'm grateful for, to the person that introduced me to that, because, when you have a regular job, unfortunately, I mean, there is some people that have mentors who kind of lead them into starting their self-development journey. But for the most of us, if you have a regular job and you're not really introduced to anything like this, which I never was until that point, it's like you go to work, you come home, you go to work, you come home. I mean, it's like this kind of routine that you get into,
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, that's when you work, and then weekends you catch up on everything you didn't do during the week, laundry, housework, etc. And you kind of go right back to it on Monday, and it's kind of like this hamster on a wheel situation where you're going, but really you're going nowhere really fast. So for me, I think that was one of the biggest blessings that happened over 17 years ago when I did start on my entrepreneurial journey, which unknowingly that's what I was doing at 22. And it kind of led me onto this journey of self-development, which, like you said, I think is probably one of the biggest things that can prepare you for anything that comes, and just having a positive attitude. I think a lot of people will always look for all the negative and always will complain. And it's like you're looking for the problem instead of looking for the solution. And my thing has always been, and it's not even anything that I've worked on. I mean, I've worked on it along the years, but as I was younger, it was something that just naturally came. I always try to look for like the silver lining, the positive in any situation. Even with my mom, when she passed away, of course it was a bad situation. Of course, like I said earlier, I hated it. It sucked. I hate that she's no longer here. But even then, it was like, what? It brought my sisters and I closer. I knew a family who, when their mom passed away, there was a lot of issues. During the time, they couldn't agree on what treatment. They couldn't agree on, when and who was going to take care of her. There was just all this back and forth. And with us, what I chose to look at was the fact that my sisters and I worked so well together. Like, there was no arguments. There was this 100% support. And we just agreed on everything. And even that in and of itself is such a huge blessing, because we didn't have to deal with those other issues of arguing and not being on the same
Yeah.
page, on top of trying to figure out what was going on and how to take care of my mom. So again, you really have to choose to look for the positive. And I believe that we can all do it. It has to be a choice, and it has to be a daily choice that we make. I do it via doing a gratitude journal every single morning. I just write down 5 things that I'm grateful for. It's not anything big. It doesn't, at first it was like, oh, my house, my husband, our health, my children. And then obviously after a couple of days, like, you're kind of done with the bigger things. And then it's like, what do I focus on now? And it's the smallest things. One of the days it was just me being able to sit outside during the day and not having, have a regular 9 to 5 job, and just watching my kids be in the pool, or a hug, at nighttime before I went to bed, from one of my kids, or a smile from a stranger, as I was walking into the store. Because again, with everything that's going on in the world right now, everyone's not friendly all the time. It's almost like we have a wall up. So it's the smallest things that you can focus on. And what doing a gratitude journal helps us with is, I do it every morning. So I focus on what happened the day before. And what I have noticed is it has me focusing throughout my whole entire day on all of the good stuff that's happening in my life. So I'm constantly looking for, okay, what can I write about tomorrow morning? So it helps me to, again, focus on the good instead of the bad, focus on what I have instead of what I lack.
So the gratitude journal, did the gratitude journal help you evolve with your entrepreneurship journey?
You know what? I think that doing my gratitude journal, and I pair it up with something that I learned from a mentor of mine, a virtual mentor. Her name is Rachel Hollis, which I'm sure whoever's listening or watching might know. But she pairs it up with an intention, like your intentions for the day. So you basically create your vision of yourself for the next 10 years. Like, where do you see your best self doing in the next 10 years? And then you kind of work backwards. And once you figure out what your vision is, you figure out what the 10 dreams would be that would get you there the fastest. And you pick those 10 dreams out of many dreams that can obviously, do that. And then once you pick your 10 dreams, you write them down every single day as if they already happened. So for me, for example, I write down every single morning, I have helped raise resilient, strong, confident, kind, successful adults. So that's one of like my 10 dreams, that when I get to 10 years from now, I want to look back and I want to look at my kids who are at that point going to be 22, 21, no, 23, 21, and 19. I want to look at them and I want to see that I've, helped raise, along with my husband, confident, strong, resilient, kind, etc., adults. So as I'm doing this, again, I'm writing it down as if it would have already happened. So it allows me to be intentional about what I do throughout my whole day. And I do that every single morning. I just take it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a notebook. And you literally write down the 5 things you're grateful for every single day. Again, small things. And then your 10 dreams that as if they would have already happened. And then you choose one goal that you're working on for the quarter. And it can be from those. So like whatever's going to get you to where you want to be in 10 years the fastest, you work on that for that quarter. And then every quarter you reevaluate. So for me, it's just being intentional every single day about what I'm doing, and not just waking up and just kind of going with the flow. It's like either life happens to you or you create what happens in your life. And I think so many of us just kind of wake up, go with the flow. And it's
That's
like
true.
before you know it, 5, 10, 20 years have passed, and you look back and there's so much we could have done, but it's almost like we kind of just went with the flow and we never took the wheel of our life and actually, drove it in the direction that we wanted to go, as opposed to just kind of going in the direction that it took us.
Yeah, it's a definitely a good strategy to use to be able to create that life you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you So the other day we had this really beautiful conversation, and we were talking about just looking into our inner voice and listening to it, and how if you don't listen to it, if you choose to ignore it, whether it's a critical inner voice or not, it could potentially lead to it impacting your feelings and your performance. So I wanted to see if you can talk to the audience about it. How you relate your inner voice to finding your inner voice and then being able to utilize that to your journey.
You know what? My inner voice is something that I've been talking to people about a lot lately, because it's not something that I on purpose like knew or even understood. It's just something that I always kind of follow. Like, I call it your gut feeling. You call it your gut feeling, your inner voice. I also call it the Holy Spirit. You know, I believe that we're being led constantly, and it's our choice to listen or to ignore it. And obviously there's consequences to both of those decisions. So for me, I've always gone with my gut feeling. And when I was younger, I used to always blame it on the fact that I would always wait to the last minute and then make a choice. And I think I always did that because I fully trusted, and I knew, like, just from experience of what I, just in my life, in my short life back in the day, how when I did that and I kind of just went with whatever I thought I should go with, like that gut feeling, it always worked out. Like, I don't remember ever doing that and it not working out for the better. So I'm constantly telling people, listen to your inner voice, listen to that gut feeling that you have. Like, I believe that we all know what we should do, always, except we struggle with those decisions because it's not always what we want to do. Sometimes you get that gut feeling and it tells you, girl, don't, like, just don't go there, and you go there anyway because you want to. Like, for example, when you're young and you're dating some guy, some kid, and he's not the right person. Your mom may have told your dad, like, he's just not a good influence, whatever the case may be. We all, I think, have been there, but he's cute and we like him and we're attracted. So it's like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Even though in my gut it feels a little off, I'm going to do it anyway, especially when we're teens. We were talking, I think I was talking to you that one day that we talked, how our part of our brain is not developed. Yeah, it was you, by a certain time. So when we're a teen, like, the part of the brain that basically tells us if it's a good or a bad choice, it's not developed yet. So we make a ton of just stupid mistakes sometimes. But I believe we all have that inner voice, that gut feeling that will try to direct us. And if we listen, I feel like it will be a really great experience. When we don't listen, there's experiences. It's just we're going to have to learn a lot of lessons along the way. And it's a little, harder. They say, we all have to learn it our own way. We all have to experience things, in our own person, because so often, people will tell us and try to guide us and we don't believe them because, again, we're being stubborn, or we're young and we think we know it all. But I think listening to our inner voice is such a gift that we can give to ourselves, because for me, it's been the greatest gift. Saying yes when I feel led to say yes, saying no when I feel led to say no, I think has always guided me, and it's taken me to where I am today. And anytime I feel that inner guidance, telling me this way or that way, I always try to follow it. And I think taking that immediate action, I don't doubt it. I don't sit on it. I don't analyze it. I think analyzation causes paralyzation. I've heard that for years.
Yeah.
And I've seen people be paralyzed by being too analytical. It's like you get this divine download. One of my friends taught me that term, where you receive this idea, for example. And for me, I've always been very anxious about, like, moving quickly. Anxious in a way where I can't wait to, like, take action on whatever idea I just received. But so many people, they sit on it and then they think about it and then they write down the pros and cons and then they think about it a little bit more. Then they talk to their friend about it and they talk to their mom. And my thing is, it was given to you. It wasn't given to her or to him or to they. It was given to you to act on. And what we were talking about before was, or that in our last conversation, is that so often when we get these divine downloads, it could be a dream, it could be a goal, it could be a vision of some kind. We need to move forward quickly, because we can miss our time. And it doesn't mean that our time can't come back again, in a year or 2 or 10 years. And we might make our dreams a reality anyway. And I believe that when we are gutsy kind of people, when we are determined and we are willing to take action, even if it is delayed action, at some points, like, we can make our life, our dream, our vision of our life a reality. But my thing is, when we don't take immediate action, how many other people are we robbing of something good? For example, I think we were talking about before that I believe we're linked up. Like, I believe there's people that we are meant to impact. I believe there's people that we're connected to. So when we decide to not follow what we're supposed to do, and we choose to say no to our inner voice because we're scared, because we have insecurities, because there's a ton of doubts, whatever the case may be, I think that then we're robbing that person from that specific connection we're supposed to have somehow, some way. And the thing is that we will never know. And I think this is why I'm constantly taking action. Like every time that I get this like thing or this desire of, or this divine download, I'm like, okay, I'm going to just take action, hurry up and do it before I chicken out, before I allow the fear, the doubts, the
Right.
insecurities to set in.
Yep.
I take action as fast as I can for that reason. Number one. Number two, because I believe that I'm connected and I need to do something. Like there's a reason why I'm being given this divine download, and I'm connected to certain people. And because of the action that I take, they will be blessed. There will be some kind of impact in their life, positive impact. I think that's why I'm like, okay, I need to hurry up and do it, because I don't want to, like, I guess, have that moment pass me. And yes, I will never know that it passed me. It's like I will never know who wasn't blessed or who wasn't impacted as a result of my inaction. But just having that hunch or believing that that's a possibility, that I can have an impact on someone and that I can take that away by not taking action, for me, that's motive enough to like get out of my own way and take the action. And it's almost like, let me see what happens. You know, if I
Yeah.
fail, fine, I'll learn. Because I think we have to be willing to fail. I think so many people nowadays are conditioned to wait until the time is perfect, to wait until they are perfect, to wait until the whole like plan is set out perfectly. And that's why I title my podcast Perfectly Imperfect, because I think we need to take imperfect action all the time instead of waiting to be perfect and never taking action. It's almost like we are getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready, and then we do nothing.
Right. How do you feel what one can condition themselves to continuously be on that momentum of being imperfect, taking imperfect action, being able to say, I'm going to follow my gut. This is what my intuition is asking me to do. I don't want to miss this opportunity to make an impact to somebody else's life. How can someone condition themselves for it?
You know what I've always found that has worked for me is always focusing on the other person, even if you don't know who that other person is. I think so many times we make it about ourselves. You know, I don't want to, because how am I going to look? How am I going to sound? What are they going to say about me? If I fail, you know, and I have to go back to like a 9 to 5, let's say you're talking about like a business and you're going on this business venture and then you leave your job to pursue it, or to pursue any other kind of dream. What if it doesn't work? What am I going to do once I have to go back? We always point it back to ourselves, when I think our entire life is all about everyone else except ourselves. I think we are here to serve. I think we are here to impact, to bless, to bring value to other people. And so often we don't look at it that way. It's always about how we're going to look, feel, what they're going to say about us, our reputation, kind of blowing ourselves up. And honestly, when we can make it about someone else and how can I serve others? How can I bless them? How can I impact? How can I add value somehow, some way? It's so much easier to get out of your own way, because it's like, for example, I always think of, I had a friend who was very depressed, and she figured out how to get out of that depression by going out and volunteering at a nursing home. And she would go. And, you know, when it was all about her, she was very depressed because she was at home, and it was like all these thoughts. You know, I feel like when you get enclosed, and again, I've never suffered with any kind of mental illness, thank God. So I don't fully understand. I've never experienced it, but from what she would tell me, it was always kind of worrying about her, thinking about, you know, the past and everything she had experienced and everything she didn't have. It was, you know, just a lot of negativity, unfortunately, not a lot of negative feelings. So someone had recommended for her to go volunteer, and she didn't want to, but she kind of did it because it was kind of like a last resort. And she went to start volunteering with the elderly, and she found that the minute she focused her energy on someone else, it was almost like something was lifted off of her shoulders. And now she didn't feel all the negative feelings. She wasn't feeling as depressed. She had to do, you know, obviously more work,
Yeah.
but it was almost like, okay, I can help someone. She now felt useful. She now felt helpful, as opposed to just being stuck at home all the time. So I think just like it worked for her, it started like a transformation, a change for her, it can work for the rest of us. You know, we need to stop focusing on how we can benefit, how we will look, how we will sound, and really start focusing way more on the impact and the value that we can add to others.
That's beautiful. So true. And so how are you implementing this with your members, your podcast listeners and your members? Are you doing the same thing and providing this to them?
When I started my podcast last September of 2019, I did it with the idea of sharing the stories, like sharing inspiring stories of women. I wanted to specifically serve women because that's kind of like with network marketing, that's who I was working with. And I just always felt like that was my calling, to just add value, impact, help, inspire, empower women. So when I started my podcast, I did it with the idea, I didn't really know, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, it was just taking imperfect action. I didn't really know where it was going to go. I didn't really have a strategy per se. There was no like business strategy behind, what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was more of, let me just, I got the hunch. I sat in it for a few months, probably a little longer. And then only because the tech freaked me out, I was like, I'm going to have to get a mic, and I'm going to have to get a new laptop, and I'm going to have to set up like a recording studio. None of that is true. My podcast is done in my office with my cell phone and a free app that I downloaded. That's it. So,
And it's simple.
it's super simple. And the minute I got away from thinking it was so complicated, it was like the action was immediate. I started recording immediately. I said, hey, I'll try it out this way. And then if it sounds kind of crappy, then, eventually I'll get the mic and I'll get all the setup. But now, gosh, it's been almost a year and I still only use my cell phone with the app. It's called Anchor. And that's it. That's all I do. So, when I started the podcast, that led me on to really enjoying having these conversations with the women and being inspired. That's one of my favorite things. From any time that I talk to someone, my favorite thing is listening to their story, of where they came from to where they are today. It inspires me so much, because I look at it this way: if she has been able to do that, I can sure as heck do something similar, bigger, smaller, whatever, but I can do something similar. Like, I can do it to whatever it is that I'm thinking about doing. And that's how that started. And then that led me, a conversation with one of the guests led me into thinking about starting the community, the Facebook group that I started called We Lead Society. I started that just to kind of put positivity out into the world, specifically for female entrepreneurs and those in the making. That was my idea. I want to empower, encourage, because when I was early on into my entrepreneur journey, I didn't really I didn't even know that kind of a group existed. I didn't know there was Facebook groups, and obviously this was when I was 22, so many years ago. So it didn't exist at the time, but as it developed, as Facebook came out, I'm totally dating myself now, but as Facebook, launched, and then, everything kind of happened with technology, I still didn't know up until this past year that, there was Facebook groups that were specifically created with a purpose like that. And then I learned about like memberships that were specifically created to do the same thing. And that's kind of how We Lead Society came about. I joined a membership that empowered female entrepreneurs and those in the making, that basically helped them create a successful business along creating a life they loved. And when I heard that, I was like, this is what I meant to do. Like, I'm going to need to figure out how in the world to do this. And again, I took imperfect action. I created the group. I've basically been doing, now I'm taking a course from a mentor of mine that's basically teaching me how to do everything I've been doing. And it's funny because looking back, I think of, I've been doing, like I create, she said, create a group. I'm like, okay, I have one. Do this. Okay, I have it. So it's interesting that, if you just pay attention to the right people and then you take action as a consequence of what you're learning, that it's almost like inevitably you will take the right path. Again, going back to listening to your inner voice, every time that I pay for a course or purchase a course of some kind, anytime I follow someone, it's because in my gut, I feel led to do so. And it's led me to where I am today. I just launched like a beta launch for my membership, which went really well.
Okay.
So it's interesting to me how when you follow your gut, it's almost like you have a mentor, you have a coach guiding you, but it's inside of you.
So are you still working on this challenge or this new program that you're offering?
So the beta launch ended. So I have a group of women that joined, and they're helping me. They're working kind of side by side with me to finish creating the membership. Like I said, it's called We Lead Society Members Club. So WLS Members Club. And we're working on the website currently. So part of the website's gonna have a ton of like free resources, just like the Facebook group has. Like if you guys go into Facebook groups and just search for We Lead Society, that's WE space LEAD space society, you will find the group. You'll see my picture on there. But that's where I basically every single day I'm adding value. I do positive affirmations every single day that are specifically for women, for female entrepreneurs and those in the making. I share quotes every single day, encouragement. I'll go on there and do Facebook Lives. I'll share videos with tips and just different ideas on how you can help create your ideal life. Because I believe that we all know what kind of a life we want to live. It's just getting from point A to point B. That's the challenge, and figuring
Yeah.
out how. And I think the more we are around people that think like us, that believe like us, that encourage and support and empower us, I think the faster we can get to creating that kind of a life. Because listening to people that are like-minded, people that believe in us, people that are doing what we want to do, it allows us to, number one, be in an environment where it breeds belief into us. I think when we are around people that maybe have never done something that we want to do, or they don't believe that we can, all it does, it creates more insecurities, more doubts, and more fears.
That's
And
right.
that's just going to stop us. But when we're around other people that are doing what we want to do, I honestly believe that we are empowered with the information, with the inspiration, with the encouragement that we need to take that next step.
I think that's a good point, because earlier you mentioned how when we share our passion or something that we want to create, and we talk about it to our family member or, a friend, and they don't really see the same vision as us, they may sometimes convince us to not even pursue it, because they don't see what we see. They don't see the passion that we have within ourselves, or that intuition, that inner voice telling us what to try out or what to do, something that we have found an idea of and then trying to pursue it, right? But when we join these communities, or we join groups of other entrepreneurs or other individuals who see the same vision, it's like an affirmation. It does give us that positivity, and it also gives us that encouragement that what we're envisioning, what we see, our gut instinct, is actually something great to pursue. And it gives us that support system. So I really appreciate that you have that group. I like it myself. I really love listening to the things you say, and reading other posts from the other members, and just seeing the success that they're doing and in their entrepreneurial journey is just very inspirational for me too. So I'm glad you put that together.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
you're so right. I think so many times the way I describe it, I think the way I described it to you last time that we talked was, we have this 8 by 10 vision of what our life is, or what we want to create, our dreams, our goals, etc. And when we share that 8 by 10 vision with someone that has a 5 by 7 mindset,
Mm.
it's a really scary situation, in my opinion, because the only way they will get it is if they expand, grow that
Yes.
mindset. And if they choose not to, which many people are kind of just stuck in their ways and they just don't believe in growing or changing, they're comfortable. If they don't like basically grow their mindset, then if you want them to understand and really get and support you, you're gonna have to shrink down your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I say it's so scary, because so many people, we are sometimes unknowingly undercover people pleasers. And sometimes we know very well that we are. So we're trying to please these people that we care about. And again, we're not, that vision, that dream that was given to you, it was given to you for a reason. And
Mm-hmm.
there was nowhere within that vision, within that dream, did it say that anyone else had to get it. So it is absolutely our responsibility when we receive these divine downloads of our visions, our dreams, our goals. It is absolutely our responsibility to pursue them, whether someone else gets it or not. Like, it's really none of our business what anyone else thinks about what we're doing with what we have been given. And I think that's why it's so powerful to really just, number one, be around other people that are like-minded. because I've never met anyone that's pursuing their own goals, their own dreams, their own big vision that will ever tell me not to do the same thing. You know, I've never been discouraged by someone that's successful already. I've never been discouraged by someone that's pursuing something wonderful in their life. I've only been discouraged or pretty much kind of like stepped on in a way by someone that's kind of in their own way,
Yeah.
that is comfortable, or, you know, so they think. I think everyone can do so much, except we get so comfortable in our comfort zone and it's scary to get out of there.
Yes.
So when someone
So
else
true.
is doing something big, it's almost inevitable that if we are not, that we're going to try to talk them out of it in a way. Again, going back to, they have a 5x7 mindset, you have an 8x10 vision. So you really have to make a tough choice, and you have to choose who you share that vision with. And you have to be really smart about it, because like you said earlier, unknowingly they might try to tear it down, and not always are they aware that they're doing it. I think more often than not, they're not, you know, conscious that they're tearing it down or stomping on your
Right.
dreams or really kind of messing them up. I think so many times they describe it as trying to protect you. For example, you know, I don't want to see you suffer. I don't, you know, if you fail, it's kind of like us with our kids. You
Right.
know, we are programmed to protect them. That's like our job. So if we think something might hurt them via failure of some kind, we're going to try to kind of let them see what's possible. They might fail, they might succeed. Okay, what's going to happen if you fail? You know, how are you going to react? So I think a lot of times that's kind of what people that care about us do. Unknowingly, they're discouraging us.
That's so true. Anything that you want to share with us about current promotions or anything that you're trying to grow?
Well, right now, what I would love for you guys to do, if you're interested, if you're a female entrepreneur or one in the making, is you can join me inside the We Lead Society Facebook group. That's where I basically share any kind of promotion, any kind of challenge that I'm running. Probably within a month or 2 months, the latest, I'm going to run my challenge again. It's called Master Your Mindset. And it is where for 7 to 10 days, we go through teaching you techniques and teaching you just different ways, different methods of how you can develop a growth mindset, which I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of the reasons why I believe I've accomplished and I am where I am today. It's because of the fact that I've developed a very strong growth mindset, and I'm always focused on the solution. I'm always focused on the positive. And I think that's something that you can really work on. If you don't have it naturally, which a lot of people don't, I think it's something that you can develop. And the Master Your Mindset Challenge helps you do exactly that. The last time that we did it, which was a few weeks back, the results were just so amazing. I was so happy with what people were sharing. One of the women was saying that she has suffered with imposter syndrome forever, and there was this one competitor, in a way, someone that was doing something similar as her business in
Mm-hmm.
her area, and that she would always look at her and she couldn't, just the way she felt, she almost felt like angry, or like she didn't like that person because she was being successful and, you know, sometimes she wasn't. And it turned it all around. And by the time we were done with the challenge, she was able to be inspired, because she now understood that she was comparing her chapter 1 to that person's chapter 21.
Wow.
And of course, she was always going to fall short, because
Right.
when you compare your weaknesses to someone else's strengths, it's like there's no comparison. So just that, at that point, it was a 7-day challenge. We're creating a 10-day challenge from the same form, but from the feedback we got from all the participants, they were like, we wish it was a little bit longer, we had a little bit more time. So I decided to just, you know, extend it a little bit and do a 10-day challenge. But just in 7 days, I was so impressed, because the women did the work. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is the reason why it works so well. You know, I think so many times, you know, there's such amazing programs out there, there's so many of them, but the fact that you choose to participate is not enough. You have to choose to actually act on it. Again, going back to taking action. And there were so many women that finished all the assignments. They were on all the, you know, the Zoom calls, and they got so much value out of it. And I was excited, because to have a little mini transformation in just 7 days, mindset wise, and just in their life, you know, I first of all, I was very impressed, and I was like almost in shock, because it's taken me a lot longer to have those kind of transformations. But I guess all the years that it's taken me of learning all the techniques and all the practice and all the methods and being able to teach it to them in just 7 days, it created the same kind of transformation that I've had over years. So I think that was such a gift for me to see them experience what I've experienced over a longer time, to be able to help them do so in just a week.
Wow. And that's so beautiful
So,
that you were able to make an impact on these women in such a short period of time. I mean, that's got to make you feel so good about yourself and the success that you're making along the way.
it helps me understand that I'm on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
It I try really hard to not make it about myself, because I think that's where we get into trouble. So I try not to, like, blow my own head up because I think we start making so many wrong choices when we do that. But what it confirmed to me, from just different messages that I got from all the different participants, was that I am in the right place. Like, I am doing what I've been called to do, especially because it was a free challenge. I mean, I dedicate so many hours to putting it together, to doing the Zoom. I mean, gosh, it was like 20 plus hours, if not longer. And the fact that I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing it for free, that I was very happy doing it. And I interviewed someone for my podcast a while back, and she said, that you're doing what you're called to do in your life when you would still do it even if you didn't get paid. Like, that's the question, if you're getting paid for it, and then you ask someone, so what if, like, they didn't pay you? What if you, like, lost all your income right now? Would you still continue doing what you do? Most people at a regular job would be like, heck no, I need to make money, which, yes, I need to make money, of course. But the fact was that when I was doing everything, like, I didn't care. It was filling me up so much, just with joy and with excitement to see their transformations kind of starting to blossom and seeing those positive changes, that I was just excited with that alone. And I remember my husband telling me, like, so, when are you gonna start making money, or how is this gonna work? And I laugh because I'm like, that's all men worry about, honestly, which is fine. Obviously, yes, that's the goal. There is a strategy behind everything. But I was just happy seeing these women find, clarity and direction to their goals and their dreams, reconnect with their dreams. I think so often, going back to the, hamster on a wheel, we're kind of just there,
Yeah.
going, not really ever connecting with what we're truly meant to do. And some people have found their calling, and that is super exciting. And then some people know in their gut that they're made for so much more. Like, they know they were created for more. They know in their gut, like, they have so much more to give to the world, and to, that they can add value in so many other ways that compared to what they're doing currently. And I think that, for me, being able to help someone see that
Yeah.
and find the clarity in what their next step is, that was like everything for me, to be able to do that again, going back to in just 7 days.
Wow. I can listen to you for hours. I'm just so in awe with everything that you are doing. And it's just so nice to see that you're adding so much value in people that maybe you have never met. And just, I know that you've been working with these women, and these women are coming from all over the world. They're not just from the US, which I think is so beautiful that you're making an impact beyond this country, which is nice. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was interesting to see
Yeah.
people from the UK. There was a few from the UK. There was Australia. There was someone from oh gosh, I'm gonna forget the country.
Wasn't it
Uh,
Ireland or something like that? Ireland? Was it
there
Ireland?
was there was I think there was also one from Ireland, but there was
Uh-huh.
from oh, I always forget the country. But they are, like you said, we're talking earlier before we started recording, you were talking about how someone got on a call that was like afternoon for you, and it was like middle of the night for them. Well, some of these women, when we did the Zoom calls, I didn't even think about the fact that people from different parts of the world would join the challenge. So I did it for 7 p.m. Central Standard Time,
Mm.
which I thought, well, after people get out of work, it should be fine no matter where they are in the US, not thinking that this could be something international. So I had people that joined from places where they were 6, 7, 8, 9 hours ahead of us.
Mm.
So they were on, I think we were on at 7, they were on like at 2 in the morning.
Wow.
And I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I mean, it just didn't cross my mind, which is crazy, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm in some of the groups and there's people from all over the world. So I think I should have thought about that. Was, you know, definitely like my mistake. But one of the things when I asked them, so how can I make the program better? You know, after we were done, they said, can you consider the time difference? And I said, absolutely. I will, you know, now I'm thinking like doing it like at noon, you know, where people can get on
Yeah.
maybe during their lunch or on the weekend or something like that. And then obviously it's still like a decent time for people that are in different parts of the world that are so many hours ahead. But yeah, the program, I mean, that led into my membership. So a lot of the women, pretty much 100% of the women that were actively participating within the challenge joined my membership, which is called We Lead Society Members Club. And it is basically what I do within the membership, which will open again in about 2 months for
Okay.
enrollment to the general public. For that, what we do is we offer monthly master classes, and the master class have a bunch of different topics, but they all deal with either personal development or business development. So personal growth or business growth. And I get excited about offering women the opportunity to experience what I've experienced through memberships, because I think it's so powerful to be able to pay, you know, 20, 30, $40 for a monthly membership, where the courses that are being offered are worth $300, $400, $500, sometimes even $1,000. And for some people that still want to work on their self-development, on their, you know, their, develop themselves while they are either launching a business or up leveling their businesses that they already have,
Mm-hmm.
for just, again, 20, 30, $40, depending on what membership you're a part of. I think it's so amazing to be able to do that. For some people, it's a lot of money. I totally understand. But the fact that, you know, I don't know, for like a few cups of coffee, like here in the US, you know, cups of coffee are like $4, $5, $6 sometimes. So if you just don't drink it for the week, you're able to pay for that monthly membership that you're a part of, and to be able to gain so much value, not only the master classes, but then the community that you're a part of, going back
Right.
to being a part of a group of women that are like-minded, that are also pursuing their goals and their dreams, and are willing to support, encourage, and help you with your growth. I think it's just, there's just no price that you can put on that.
So you mentioned how one can find you for the membership club, but what about the 10-day challenge? Where can somebody find you for to
So
join?
if you join the We Lead Society Facebook group, that's where I announce everything. So as soon as the membership, I'm sorry, as soon as the challenge is available again, which again, it'll be probably like at the end of August is what I'm planning right now. That's where it's going to be announced. And I usually create a pop-up Facebook group. There'll be a link where you
Hmm.
can obviously register. It's free, so you don't have to pay
Okay.
anything for the challenge. But joining the Facebook group will definitely be the best place so you can connect with any offers, any things that I have going on, first being the challenge.
And the podcast is just as valuable too. I've been listening to it, and there's a ton of good people that that have been providing great value. I've definitely learned a lot from these women lately, so I recommend that podcast to Perfectly Imperfect. So, Leslie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and have this beautiful conversation. It seems like we always have this really nice conversation. We can keep going on and on and on and on.
Yes, yes, we definitely can. We won't make it 2 hours this time for
Right?
sure.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And I wish you all the best. I wish you much success on your journey.